all started on a crisp autumn morning, deep in the sprawling forests of the Pacific Northwest. I'd been trekking for days, mapping out some of the more remote, untouched parts of the wilderness for a personal project. The air was thin, the silence was profound, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant call of a bird. I'd set up camp near a small, clear stream, and as the sun began to cast long shadows through the ancient trees, I felt a strange sense of being watched. I dismissed it as paranoia, the kind that creeps in when you're utterly alone, but the feeling persisted, a prickle on the back of my neck that wouldn't go away. The next day, I ventured further than ever before. I was following a game trail that seemed to lead nowhere when I found the first sign, a footprint. But this was unlike any animal track I'd ever seen. It was enormous, easily twice the size of my own boot, with a distinctly humanoid shape. My heart hammered in my chest. I'd heard the local legends, of course, stories of a large, hairy creature roaming these very woods. But I'd always been a skeptic. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I pulled out my camera and began to follow the tracks, my skepticism slowly giving way to a thrilling, terrifying sense of possibility. The tracks led me off the beaten path, through dense undergrowth and over fallen logs. After about an hour of pushing through the unforgiving terrain, I stumbled into a small, hidden clearing. And that's when I saw her. Huddled at the base of a massive, hollowed-out redwood was a creature straight out of folklore. It was huge, covered in matted, dark brown fur, and slumped against the tree in a way that suggested utter exhaustion. Its breathing was shallow, and its large, intelligent eyes were glazed over with what I could only describe as despair. It was a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch, and it was clearly starving. My first instinct was to run. Every survival impulse screamed at me to back away slowly and disappear, but I couldn't. There was something about the sight of this magnificent creature, so weak and vulnerable, that held me in place. It looked defeated. Its massive frame was gaunt, the bones of its shoulders and ribs visible beneath its thick coat. It barely moved as I crept closer, its gaze fixed on something cradled in its arms. My fear was replaced by an overwhelming sense of pity and a burning need to understand. I slowly unslung my backpack, keeping my movements deliberate and non-threatening. I pulled out a couple of energy bars and an apple, the only food I could spare without jeopardizing my own journey back. I placed them on a flat rock about 20 feet away from her, then retreated back to the edge of the clearing, making myself as small as possible. She watched my every move, her dark eyes filled with a mixture of fear and something else, assessment. She didn't move for a long time. The sun began to dip lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Just when I thought she wouldn't take the offering, she slowly, painfully, extended a long arm. Her hand, massive and calloused, carefully picked up the apple. She brought it to her nose, sniffing it tentatively before taking a small, isitant bidi. I stayed there for hours, watching from a distance as she slowly consumed the food. It was a surreal experience, sitting in the twilight of an ancient forest, sharing a meal of sorts with a living legend. As she ate, some strength seemed to return to her. She shifted her position slightly, and for the first time, I got a clear view of what she was protecting so fiercely. Cuddled against her chest, nestled in a makeshift blanket of moss and leaves, was a baby, a tiny version of herself, no bigger than a human infant, with wide, innocent eyes and a tuft of soft, downy fur. My breath caught in my throat. She wasn't just starving, she was a mother, doing everything in her power to protect her child. Suddenly, it all made sense. Her weakness, her desperation, her refusal to leave this spot. She was too weak to forage for both of them, and she wouldn't abandon her baby. My heart ached for her. Over the next 2 days, I made it my mission to help. I abandoned my mapping project, and instead, used my time to forage. I gathered berries, edible roots, and even managed to catch a few fish from the stream. Each day, I would leave a pile of food on the same rock, and each day she would wait until I retreated before slowly gathering it. A silent, unspoken trust began to form between us. On the third day, something changed. As I approached with a fresh bundle of berries, she didn't just watch me. She made a low, rumbling sound, almost a soft grunt. It wasn't threatening. It felt like acknowledgement, like a thank you. I placed the food down and, feeling braver, sat a little closer than before. She watched me, then looked down at her baby, who was now moving with more energy, nuzzling against her. She then looked back at me, and for a fleeting moment, our eyes met. In that gaze, I saw not a monstrous abyss, but a parent. I saw gratitude, intelligence, and a profound love for her child. The baby, growing bolder, peeked out from behind its mother's arm, its big, curious eyes fixated on me. The mother let out another soft rumble, and the baby cooed, a sound so unexpectedly delicate it nearly brought me to tears. It was a private, intimate family moment, and I was somehow being allowed to witness it. I knew my supplies were running dangerously low and I'd have to leave soon. The thought of leaving them filled me with a strange sadness. On my last morning, I left them the largest offering yet, my remaining non-perishable food, a pile of the most nutrient-rich roots I could find, and a full container of fresh water. As I stood up to leave, the mother did something that I will remember for the rest of my life. She reached out, not to the food, but towards me. She didn't try to touch me, but simply held her hand out, palm up, in a gesture of peace. A farewell. I mirrored the gesture, a lump forming in my throat. I backed away slowly, my eyes locked on hers until the trees obscured my view. I never told anyone the exact location of that clearing. It's their secret, their home. That encounter changed me. It taught me that the world is so much bigger and more mysterious than we can ever imagine, and that compassion is a language that transcends species. I don't know if they survived, but I have to believe they did. I have to believe that the starving mother, filled with the strength born of love, was able to raise her child in the peace of that hidden sanctuary. Sometimes, when the world feels too loud and complicated, I think of them, and I'm reminded of the quiet, profound connection I shared with a legend. Thanks for listening to my story. If you enjoy tales from the wild, be sure to follow for more.